Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the P-LotPodcast. John here, joined once again by the main man himself, Michelangelo. Michael, how are we doing tonight, man? Well,
I mean, listen,
you're still pissed about
my
what
fantasy
happened.
football, my fantasy football team won, and
So did mine.
I was in a rut, so I needed that win. And this is about as tight as my fantasy league has been, maybe ever. Truly, everyone is in it. Uh, all 12 teams. Obviously, there's the teams at the top, but there is a large pile of teams that are 5-7, 6-6. Um, and it's a battle. So I'm 6-6, currently sitting as the uh, sixth seed in the playoffs, um, with like 40 points or so behind the guy in fifth, and a handful of points above the first team out. So huge fantasy win. Needed it badly. But oh yeah, the Eagles, their loss was about as frustrating a loss in a while in terms of, like, just kind of I would say, like, sort of
Yeah,
vibe, It was the
yeah, I
first
would
game.
say we
Go
were
ahead.
texting, and I said this feels like the Commanders game on steroids because it had similar vibes to the Commander games, but it's the Cowboys, and in the Commander game, Kenny Pickett was starting
Yeah, I texted
when Jalen
you.
got injured.
Yeah.
So it's like way worse, and it's
Yeah.
obviously it's like going up 21-0, and then I see people on Twitter are already like gloating, and then that was making me nervine because it's like way too early.
I tend to stay off Twitter during games, and, like, when I went on after the game to then see all the gloating, like, 4 hours later on Twitter, I'm like, "Oh, so this is what people were victory lapping in the first quarter or whatever, or second quarter, so that's great." But I mean, I texted you Sunday morning saying, "This is the first time in a
I
long
said that on the
time."
show the
No,
day before.
listen, I didn't disagree with you necessarily. I was very hesitant in picking
So
the
then
Eagles,
I
but
thought, oh no, I just pseudo like
I after we did the show, I went through Saturday, and I just was not feeling good about the game, and it was truly the first time since the wild card loss to Tampa where I genuinely felt that they were going to lose the game. Like, obviously, they've lost games, but there hasn't been a game, at all last year, and, up to this point, not until the Cowboy game, uh, past Sunday, where I was entering it like, they're probably gonna lose. And I felt that way, Sunday, and unfortunately, I was heartbroken in a way where it was like, I guess I felt like I was wrong, and then, everything kinda went into the gutters. Let's just get right into it. So, just a really, really, really annoying loss. I mean, you feel like, uh, a tide was being turned a little bit with the way they opened up the game offensively. They were throwing it, and they were hitting almost everything, that they were trying to do. They got, a little fortunate call early that obviously totally got outweighed by the end of the game, but, that punt that got deflected, that wouldn't have been a roughing the punter, but they called it a roughing the punter. Very fortunate there. But the Eagles still got to
bang
go
bang
down and score a
bang.
touchdown, and they did. They still drove down and scored the touchdown, so you got to give them credit. Um, you get out to the big lead. Cowboys are turning the ball over.
Well, you had like the fumble, and then the Cowboys picked it up, and then you had another fumble.
Where then the Eagles picked it up, and then you go
Yeah,
down, score again. You get up 21-0. You're feeling good. You kinda not concede, but it's like you give up the one touchdown, and then
they
you
they
kinda
immediately for some reason. So they basically their whole thing is build a lead and then like
sit on it.
sit on it to ensure they'll win, which has worked a lot. You can't say that that hasn't resulted in wins, but they did it way too early in the game. Like you do that in the fourth quarter, when you're up.
Yeah, no, like you think of the Steeler game last year where they got up to a lead, they got the ball with 10 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, and they killed the entire game. But then you think, you know, to the Broncos, like this loss was a different version of the Broncos loss this year. This is now the second loss on the season where they've gotten out to a big lead, and their inability to run the ball is really tanking them at the moment. We criticize Patullo and Nick, and I think rightfully so. I think that point's been very much exhausted. Where there's no huge reason to beat the dead horse at this point. Where if we really want to assign blame or at least highlight a large reason as to the offensive struggles, it is greatly the regression and I guess health or lack thereof of the offensive line. It's just not a good unit at the moment. It has their moments in the pass game, but there's very few running plays that are well blocked, and they do get beat pretty badly in the pass protection from time and time again. It feels like at some of the worst times, where the plays are drawn to be open and they are open, but Jordan Mailata is getting bench pressed into Jalen Hurts' lap, or Fred Johnson's getting driven back into Jalen Hurts' lap, or Cam Jurgens gets beat immediately across his face. And, he by the time Hurts turns around in the play action, there's a defender right there. So the bad offensive line play has done a lot to hurt this offense. And if you really do want to go and repeat and be successful in January and whatever, you're going to have to be able to run the ball a little bit better. I mean, this is the Broncos game. They didn't run the ball really in the second half. And again, it's one of those things where we're texting or whatever, and we're not like totally anti them throwing it in those spots because it is what's working, and it feels like I don't know how many times I text everybody during the game, just never run the ball, because they run the ball, they get a yard and a half or they lose a yard, it's stuff at the line. It's like, well, now you're just behind the sticks. And in a game by game situation in must win games, you're probably going to try to peel away from it if your running game isn't working. But in like a step back, big picture situation here, they're going to need to run the ball if they really want to compete and, beat the Rams in the playoffs and beat other NFC contenders and win a Super Bowl. They're going to need to be able to run the ball because this offense, this passing game, I should say, while it can be successful, both the scheme and not like Jalen slander, but I'll say like the quarterback, there's very few teams in the NFL that are good enough to be pass only. Like the Rams can afford to really go through stretches where they're like pass only and still kind of dominate. The Chiefs can go through stretches of being pass only and still have great success moving the football. The Bengals, when Burrow's healthy, they can be pass only and they can have successful offensive games. Besides like those handful of teams, there are pretty much no one else can afford to be like pass only and succeed. So when the Eagles kind of find themselves in situations where they're trying to be pass only because the running game is so poor, it only can work so much, like whether it's the offensive line not holding up on a couple reps or Jalen being just a little off on a throw and AJ and Devontae not reeling in a ball they're used to reeling in, or, you know, being pass only, eventually the ugly head rears itself of the passing concepts not being so great all the time. Like at the worst time, here comes their classic hitch routes that are so predictable and nothing's open in the biggest play of the game. And all of that culminates into what this offense is, which is just not a good unit at this point. The easiest counting stats, they're bottom 10, I think maybe bottom 8 in the league in like points per game and yards per game. And they're like 25th in success rate. That's just not good. It's really unacceptable for the amount of
Well, I would
talent.
say, I think I said this to you, I said this to other people, and I think everyone's kind of in agreement. I think with they have so many drives. See, we talk about like the three and outs, and then everyone sort of harps on the scheme, right? Where a big reason they get these drives negated or killed is because of penalties.
This year, they are greatly,
Like the Eagles
greatly
defense
being hurt by
does not
penalties.
really get penalized a whole lot. All their penalties, a lot are on the offense. False starts, holdings, illegal
Yeah,
shifts.
they're like top 5 to top like 7, I'll say, in penalties, penalty yards, pre-snap penalties, like all the bad stats. And there was
And
that
if
one
you can't
chart that was going
exactly,
around of uh like how many penalties you commit and then how much they're affecting you. And the Eagles are in that quadrant with a lot of slop teams where you're taking a lot of penalties and it's killing you.
and I think part of that's on coaching. However, like Michael, this offense for the most part has been together for several years. This usually with the bad teams commit all these penalties, it's a big reason is you have
A
a
lot of
bunch of
changing parts.
you have so many changing parts where I do feel to a certain extent, like, listen, Patullo's gonna get fired and he should be fired. But it's, at the same time too, like when you're going out and get a new offensive coordinator, the new offensive coordinator is probably going to be like, is going to maybe mention this. And to Howie, to at least Howie Roseman and I think Nick Sirianni and Jeffrey Lurie, he's like, the players got to take some accountability in all of these mistakes. And that's what Jordan Mailata said on the Players Lounge on WIP last night, because they were trying to bait him into slamming Kevin Patullo.
Patullo, sure.
And then he kind of probably he's like, listen, like, we need to stop playing like crap, basically. He's like,
And
he's
he's
like,
right.
he's like, we can blame the coaches all we want, but like at the same time, like we need to take accountability for ourselves. Like that was like you said, like AJ Brown had maybe like his second best game of the year, like the best game besides the Viking game.
The It was probably his best complete game, I'd say, the
Best
Cowboy game.
complete
Like, the
game.
Ram game, he had the great second half. The Viking game, he still only had 4 catches. Um, this was definitely his best complete game. He was a force kinda the entire time.
And to the best of my knowledge, he didn't, say anything of like heavy note, nothing probably worse than what he said lately. Like to
No,
me, like,
this loss was very much on player execution. We can harp on the coaching and, like, that's, like, a bigger umbrella issue, but if you wanna, like, zero in on why they lost the Cowboys game, it was player execution on both sides of the ball too. Like we'll get into the defense a little bit, but the offensive execution after, like, they called a good enough game to win the game. I think at least there were some plays that Jalen missed. There were a few plays that the receiver should have reeled in. There were some
well,
plays that were killed by bad blocking.
I mean, so like the hand, like you had like Fred Johnson hands to the face. I rewatched it. It was from what my understanding was, my friend who's a former offensive line coach for high school. He brought up the fact that like he's grabbing him up here. He says, and if your hand gets up here, that's not really hands to the face. Hands to the face is like this.
Up. I mean, he's still, like, under, and,
But
like,
he said
when
that
your
was,
hand is that high and the defender's head's going back, it's gonna get called every time. You gotta be smarter.
and I think like, and then I think like some of the most, I would say the egregious penalties, apparently the one they called on Matt Pryor, probably from what I've read, people thought that was ticky tacky. I think the big thing was that there was a lot of uncalled penalties on the Cowboys, and the Eagles got dinged for 14 penalties. And
Sure, I think
this
it was
feels like, and
ultimately outweighed.
it feels like for like a very long time. And I think we should know this. Like when the Eagles go to the Dallas, and especially if Dak is playing, it feels like when the Eagles are in first place and they're going into Dallas this time of the year, the officiating is going to be slanted towards Dallas. It just is.
Sure, but I
It just
mean,
is. And like, not that I'm using it as an excuse, but the Eagles should have known going into that game, look, we need to go in with the mentality that we're down by 7 from the rip. And we need to be aggressive. And we need to, we need to basically smoke them. If we get to a point where we're up 21-0, like we need to keep pouring on points because we know because the Eagles have been penalized for like over 200 yards in both of
yeah, I
these
mean, they
combined, and they're
were
for like
yeah.
what, like 25, like what, 22, 23 penalties cumulatively.
I mean, it's really a lot of it's sloppy, I'll be honest. Like, there were some ticky tacks, some ones that didn't go in their favor, but I felt that most of the penalties they did commit were, like, enough. There were some very like, the offensive pass interference on Devontae Smith was pretty bad. The one on DeJean was pretty bad. Like, there were some bad ones that they should not have called, but, like, the pre-snap ones and, like, the lining up wrong, like, those are just inexcusable ones. Like, you can't
Right,
I
because
know
if you
everyone
don't
goes a
commit
false
those
start, but you can't.
inexcusable ones, then you can't. Then you're like, wow, the Eagles didn't really commit any pre-snap penalties, and these post-snap penalties are really ticky-tacky.
Right, and it's like if they cleaned up the pre-snap penalties, you probably win the
I
game.
mean, I
It's
mean,
it's
you had
just
one.
it's
I mean, you
frustrating.
had one play for like, and then I'll say this too. We didn't mention the turnovers. I know you want to talk about the defense. Let's talk about the defense.
Well, we can talk about the turnovers. Let's talk about the turnovers because Saquon, we felt he isn't having, his best. We know he's not having a good statistical year. It's one of his worst years, if not the worst year of his career statistically. And we talked about it. We're thinking he's kind of in his like his Giants mode, his little Giants PTSD, where the offensive line was so bad for him that when Saquon looked cooked with the Giants, it was looking like this, where he's trying to do too much on every single play because there more often than not, he does have to do a lot just to get something. He has to usually make a guy miss in the backfield in order to get somewhat of a positive run. And that when you're in that mode all the time, it just kinda comes out at all times. So he catches the check down and the ball security isn't the top priority, and he gets it punched out from behind. Brutal fumble there. The 2nd and 10 on the last drive of the game that he catches the dump off, there's a lot of green grass in front of him to just kinda run upfield, put your head down, fall forward. You're gonna get a first down in your sleep, but he's trying to make a cut and make a guy miss, and he slips and falls. He feels like he's slipped and fallen a lot this year, and it's frustrating because he's not having, the splash plays to make up for it, and I think I think, needs to simplify a little bit when he gets into his open space. When he's in open space, especially, like, past the line of scrimmage, I think you just gotta take what's given to you. I don't hate, his ability obviously, I don't, like, his ability to make someone miss in the backfield and turn a 3-yard loss into a 6-yard gain is very impressive. He's done that probably, like, 15 times this year, but when it comes down to something that is more easy for him, he just needs to kinda take that easy thing and stop trying to turn everything into a home run, and I think he's in that mode a little bit, and I think, there was a culminating bunch of things that cost you the game, but in that moment, that led you to a 3rd down, Jalen takes a really bad sack, and, like, the game's over, basically. Um, you know, those that turnover and that slip, very, uncharacteristic for what we saw from him last year. And it's just things that he needs to, I think, simplify. Like he even said in his post game interview, he's like, I gotta look at the film, I gotta see if I'm getting outside my frame and trying to do too much. And like I think he's gonna be aware of it. He just popped up on the injury report with a groin injury. I wonder if that's just kind of giving him some rest a little bit. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, I mean,
But
I would say, I mean, dude, like, I don't want to see people tweeting like, oh, 50-50 timeshare backfield with Tank Bigsby. Like, no.
no, the Bigsby discourse is like they're giving him carries on 2nd and 20 and, like, 2nd and 15 when there's a light box, so he's averaging 9 yards a carry, and, like, do I think we could benefit from giving Bigsby some more carries, especially on maybe a first down? Sure, I think we could. Does that mean it should be 50-50 split? Of course not, but should he probably get more than 1 in a game? Yeah, I'd like him to get maybe about 5 carries a game, especially if Saquon's not gonna get much more than, like, 12 these days the way they're running the ball. Maybe you do give Bigsby 3, 4, 5 carries
Well,
and a
I would
couple on
say,
first
yeah,
down.
yeah. But like the play that probably should have decided the game, but it like kind of didn't in a way was Xavier Gibson, fumbling that, getting
Yeah,
absolutely shellacked
that's
on
a
that.
that's a cuttable offense.
Well,
You know
yeah, because guess what? He got cut from the Jets for doing that.
yeah, and it's like Britton Covey's here. Britton Covey was a great punt returner before he got hurt. Like, he's here. There's no reason for him to not have the job at this point. It's a very easy cut Gibson, add Covey to the 53 man, and there's your new punt returner. And like, Gibson gets some offensive snaps to give him like a couple jet sweeps and stuff. And it's like Covey was killing those in 2022 also. Like and last year as well. He was doing pretty nice in those
Yeah, if
little things.
Ben
He just got
Covey's
hurt for
not
6 weeks.
physically the same player he was, then why is he even on the roster? Because
That's
you're
what I'm
right,
saying.
he
So, like,
should
if he's
be.
here,
I
just give
agree
him
with
the
you.
job.
But yeah, that was just. I think I texted. I thought I texted you. I said Gibson better be hurt on that because him. I mean, he got just leveled.
He got
So,
clocked. He got
but
clocked.
he caught the ball to two. Just let the ball go out
Let the
of the
ball land.
back of the
That
end
was
zone.
it's the fumbling, but also that too, like catching the ball when you should just let it go. And like in a tie game, it just, you know, I don't know. He could have got a 12-yard return. He still wouldn't have got it back to the 15. Like that's not I don't a 12-yard punt return's usually pretty awesome. But if a 12-yard return's only getting you to the 15-yard line, let the ball go, man. I'll take my risk if it's gonna bounce straight up in the air and the Cowboys are gonna down it at the 1. Good for them if they can do that. But ultimately, I guess it didn't matter because the Eagles did get a stop and they did get out of their own end zone with a couple plays. But um just another like just sloppy stuff there. It's been sloppy has been the very big theme for like the offense, and when the Eagles have the ball in their hands, like sloppy has just been kind of the way it's gone. But let's get into the defense a little bit. Outside of the Giants game, probably definitely their worst game of the year. Um, they gave up a lot of yards. It was very much like 2018 Eagles defense of you give up a lot of yards, but you're not giving up a ton of points. You're holding it down in the red zone. You're getting turnovers in key spots, and it's what they did. Dak throws you an interception in the end zone. You get a goal
Well,
line
I mean, it
standoff fourth down.
really helps your quarterback where in your offensive line is allowed to tackle Jalen Carter every play.
Sure, I get it, but I mean, they were getting cooked, like, and
I
a
mean,
lot of it
all
was
I'm
because of
saying
the
is,
injuries.
Michael, is when you have these like Twitter accounts based in like wherever, like because now you can see where accounts are like rate the refs are like saying, "Wow, the Cowboys are just getting away with murder," and all they do is crap on the Eagles every week.
No,
That's
yeah,
pretty bad. And like, listen, man, if you're not gonna get flagged for holding, you just keep holding until the ref flags you. Then you adjust. I don't blame
sure,
I don't
yeah,
blame the
I
Cowboys for doing it, but that's kind of like the whole like Cowboys home cooking. Like that's just what Jerry Jones. Ooh, you know. But I'll say this though, the thing I thought that concerned me was that, dude, if Reed Blankenship gets hurt and gets replaced by Sidney Brown, that
yeah, I mean, like, Adoree Jackson was like, he's just a really tough matchup for a guy like George Pickens. George Pickens is having a fantastic season. He's got the second most receiving yards in the league. We knew how talented he was in Pittsburgh, but clearly was being underutilized, to the point where when Dallas acquired him, I thought, well, they just kind of got a nice vertical threat for them. I mean, he is a pretty complete receiver. I didn't realize how complete I guess he really was because of the Steelers' incompetency in their own right, where Dallas's offense tends to cook a little more in the air. And clearly, Pickens is being utilized in a very dynamic way. He's got the most completions for a first down in the NFL. He had 5 completions for first downs against the Eagles on Sunday. So he's been Dak's like go-to most reliable receiver all season long. And he was cooking Adoree Jackson. Then Adoree Jackson goes down, and they clearly have very little trust in Ringo and Jacorian Bennett to the point where Cooper DeJean had to go outside, and my biggest fears were realized of I'd never want to see him outside. I know Pickens and Lamb are great receivers, but you know Cooper DeJean's value comes from his
yeah, I
strength.
really don't want to you know experiment with
No, yeah. So
in that
DeJean
spot.
was getting cooked outside. But part like it came like hand in hand of Jackson getting hurt and then Reed Blankenship getting hurt. So while Cooper DeJean was unable to, cover guys, some of the deep balls were also you're watching Sidney Brown come flying over late to try to help break it up, where maybe Reed Blankenship is over there a little sooner to help break it up. So Reed Blankenship is very obviously, we heard Darius Slay say this after last season that Reed Blankenship is like the guy. He's the leader. He's like the glue that holds it all together. The captain of the defense. That when he is gone, when he is out, the whole entire secondary is pretty much in shambles. I mean, it feels like
Discombobulated.
no one is in the right spot. Everyone's late to something. So very happy to hear Vic Fangio say that he's going to play Friday, more likely than not, um, because Makuba with a broken leg is going to be missing some time, perhaps the rest of the season. And if you were down both your starting safeties, I think things would be looking quite bleak um, in the secondary. But it seems like Blankenship's going to play, and Sidney Brown is going to play alongside of him. Not very excited about that, but I'm hoping
I
that
feel like
with
you could sort of hide Sidney
you
Brown next
can
to
because
Reed
I mean, if we
Blankenship.
remember, Sidney Brown was playing a good chunk of the snaps early in the season while they were kind of bringing Makuba up to speed with the scheme. And while he wasn't anything spectacular or even maybe good, it was a lot less offensive than what we were watching
Well, I think
this
you might
past
see
Sunday.
Coop. So obviously, the play that sprung that got the Cowboys into like chip shot field goal position. I was texting my
Hmm.
buddies. I was like, "Dude, Cowboys are gonna throw," and he's like, "Oh no!" He's like, "No way! Like their kicker can bang 65 yarders." I'm like, "He missed a 52 yarder." I said, "If they can get a play to get them within like less than 50." I said, "Trust me, they're gonna go for it, especially how discombobulated the secondary was." And then
Hmm.
the other acquisition the Eagles made that no one talks about because we haven't seen him a whole lot, Michael Carter,
Hmm.
runs into Quinion, miscommunication, springs Pickens loose.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that
He's
I
going
I
to play
didn't
more because
love.
he
That
plays.
that that's remarkable because he was coming over in motion and Quinyon was about 10 yards off the ball. I don't know how you pick your guy 10 yards off the ball. That feels ridiculous, especially um, Quinyon Mitchell or Michael Carter being a veteran. But I don't love the play call, I guess, defensively there. You send the blitz, which I think was a good idea. You're trying to get a sack or get the ball out of Dak's hands quickly and not beat you over the top. But like shouldn't you wanna play press coverage there and not give, like, a free slant? Like, even if he doesn't pick him, he's still getting, like, 8 yards. He's still getting a free completion. It wasn't gonna be
Well,
broken
that's
up.
see, that's the
I just didn't totally agree with the defensive ideology there, especially
well.
to kill on
Well, let's
Nick
talk about
again, is
you
calling the
bring up
timeout there.
turnovers, and you bring up turnover luck, right?
Mhm.
Turnover worthy plays. The Cowboys had two that they got very lucky that they happened. Like the way they landed. The first one that you're just haunted by, and I'm also like
I'm very upset by it
haunted by.
considering
Zach Bond
how
drop pick.
yeah, I really think that was, like I think if he catches that, the game kinda gets put away. You're in position to, at a minimum, get a field
I mean,
goal.
if he houses it, I agree with you. The game is over. That's
Like,
like
he
the
catches it, you're down, you're at least kicking a field goal, and you're going up 24-7, and you're just feeling a lot better about yourself, and, like, the very next play is the, missed
CD Lamb
OPI, CeeDee Lamb,
Fugazi
in-play
penalty.
completion. If anything, it should have been no call, regardless, it's just like
Well, it should have been
all that goes
OPI,
all that goes away if he just makes the interception. That doesn't even
right?
occur.
Yeah, because that
And it was
literally,
an easy one.
you know
That's
what
why
that
it's so
is too.
annoying.
When it feels like whenever a guy drops a pick, is it's like in
It's dropping a
baseball.
foul ball pop-up
It is, and then
and
hold on.
and fucking something horrible. And it's like it was such an easy one too for Bond. He really didn't have to reach. It literally went through his hands and hit him in the face. It was that easy. Something he'll catch 9 times out of 10. He caught like all of those last year. Um, very, very frustrating that he doesn't haul that one in. Like that's ultimately that's a play that turns the entire, stops all the haunt of the comeback from Dallas, but then it gets fueled with the next play bomb.
If
It's just
and then
frustrating.
near the end you had the Cooper DeJean punches the ball out. Was it
Oh, and it
on
goes out of bounds. Yeah,
Ferguson?
yeah.
Then it goes out of
Ferguson,
bounds.
and it just Ferguson trying to corral it back, like tipped it to himself, and then it like tipped it out of bounds. It's just frustrating. It was
And it felt like in the Commander game in the NFC title game, the Eagles at least got two of those
right.
inbounds.
It's just the things like everything was
Luck.
going great,
It's
and
luck.
then
It's pure luck.
while the snowball was falling down, it just was like nothing was going your way. Elliott's missing a field goal, which like uncharacteristic. Jalen, the one out route to AJ Brown is what I have in mind, where the throw's a little high, but we've seen AJ Brown catch those all the time, and like the connection was just a little off. And it's like when those sort of things aren't going your way, and not that it was like not self-inflicted, he could have made a better throw, he could have made a catch. Um, it's just kind of the way the game was going. It feels like, in baseball, it's how many more halfway down, or in basketball, how many more halfway down threes got to bounce out and not go in. And in baseball, it's like, Schwarber just missed that one, and it's like it was just one of those games. And after after the drop pick and then the bomb to CD, I was like, okay, I see where this is going. I'm getting like, not that the game was the same, but like the vibe of like the clear recovery game was just flying through my mind. I'm like, it just feels like a loss at this point. They need to do everything they can to hold off this voodoo. Then the Xavier Gibson fumble happened. I'm like, okay, so there's no point in me even caring about this game anymore. And then they get the stop, and I'm like, holy shit. And then uh, it was such a angry roller coaster that always felt like a loss, and then they just kind of gifted it to him. But all this to say that, all the worries about what Lane said very early in the season, what AJ Brown's been saying all season, and what most of the fans have been saying is that here's a week where the defense isn't perfect, and like far from it, but the defense isn't perfect, and you lose because the offense can't keep scoring. What would it have taken? One more touchdown, they probably would have won. Two field goals, and they probably would have won. That sort of thing. And they couldn't get anything. They score what, 21 points in the first 18 minutes, and then they don't score anything in the remaining 42 minutes. That's horrendous. That is not
I mean,
good.
dude, it's not good when Nick Foles,
Yeah.
who like never says a bad word about anyone, literally goes on like his podcast or whatever. He's like, I'm sure Kevin's a great. He's like, I'm sure Kevin's a great guy. I'm not gonna say something bad about Kevin. I'm sure he's
Yeah.
great at. He says, I'm sure he's great at play. I'm sure he's great at. He's like, I think he's great at coming up with game plans. But there's an art to play calling that not
Mhm.
everyone can just do it. Not
No,
every.
and we saw it with Brian Johnson. Do I think Brian Johnson's a football moron? Like, no.
No, he's a good quarterbacks coach, but like
Right.
you're not
But
gonna
play
ask
calling, it's
Stoutland
a
to call
different.
plays probably for a reason. You're gonna say he's bad at his
Exactly.
job.
I mean, look at Doug, man. Like, Frank Reich being the OC, we found out Frank Reich called a lot more plays than maybe Doug initially did at the time. Like, it's
You
just
know
one of
what's so
those things,
crazy though about Frank Reich? Because that's kind of the issue here in a way. So Sirianni coached under Frank Reich. When Frank Reich was with the Chargers, when Philip Rivers was their quarterback, a lot of their fans complained about the Frank Reich offense, how conservative it was. Because yet Philip Rivers is like fourth or fifth all time in passing yards, Michael.
Right.
Like, dude could sling the rock. He wasn't a bum.
Right.
Well, Sirianni's offense is basically kind of in the Reich mold, right? We saw what happened to Reich when he went to the Colts. Kind of
And
the
when he went
same.
to the Panthers, I mean,
And the
Jesus.
Panthers went off completely off the rails. So, I mean, I would hope after this season, regardless if they win a Super Bowl or not, because if they win a Super Bowl somehow, it's going to be the strength of the defense and the offense doing just enough for them to win, like a la the 2015 Broncos, the 2000 Ravens, you know, teams that had strong
Maybe it's like the 2013 Seahawks, where like the offense can be a little more like normal. It doesn't have to be
Yeah, that team
inept.
can run the ball. This team
Well,
can't.
no, and and ultimately that's the biggest thing. I think I was talking about this with Nick, friend of the show, that if you want he was saying, he was agreeing that like you kind of have to force the issue on figuring out how to run the ball over this next, you know, month, these next 6 games. And if you can't figure it out by the time January rolls around, you're gonna really it's just gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard to win 3 or 4 games in a row of not being able to run the football and just hoping your defense is perfect every week, and that's just gonna be hard against a team like the Rams or against a team like the Lions again, and that's gonna be difficult. Um, so if it even if it may cost you a game or so throughout these next 6 games, it may be worth it if you can figure out how to run the ball. Like, maybe in a game where you are throwing it well and you keep trying to establish a run, it's not working, but maybe you're getting answers by the end of the game. Maybe it's worth it if you lose one of those games somehow or whatever, if it means that you get the answer to fixing the running game. And if maybe the answer is just the offensive line needs to be better and that isn't gonna happen this year, then it's just gonna be a hard grind to what feels like an unfortunate playoff loss at some point, the way things are going. Like, it's they've obviously beaten all the teams that are good and gonna be in the NFC playoffs, at least once, we'll see the Bears on Friday, but it's just gonna be hard to do it again where the way you're gonna have to do it is by asking the defense to be impeccable, and, like, that starts with them being healthy, and already they're Makuba down, so they're already starting at, like, a disadvantage, and Adoree Jackson's not gonna play Friday either with a concussion, so you're at you're already, you're already getting banged up a little bit, so they need to be healthy and perfect if this is how the offense is gonna keep going, and that's a lot to ask. You're asking a lot.
Right. I will say this though, like I kind of said this about the offense because obviously their three and outs are like the worst in the league.
Mhm.
You know, I just thought of it. I was thinking like the Eagles average like 21 points a game. I think 21 points a game.
They're like 20th in the league. It's
Look
probably
it up
like
right now. Give me a moment. Give me one
it could be.
second.
It honestly might be a little higher.
The Eagles
Um,
average 23.2 points per game. They are 17th in the NFL. They are smack dab average.
it's not good.
Right. Now, if they were to with these drives, they go three and out or just get killed on penalties where they have to go punt at like the 50 or the 45-yard line, Michael, right? Let me
Mhm.
find the Lions offense because they know they average a ton of points. They're second in
They're
the Lions
second in
are
the league.
at 29.6. I mean, if I was an Eagles coach or if I was in the offense, we're like, okay, what do we need to do to improve? If if we can kick two more field goals a game, turn these two, like turn two of these like nine drives where we get 0 points on into field goals, we would be second in the NFL in points per game. Warts and all, right? And what's it all about, Michael? Scoring points. Like we could talk about DVOA, we could bring all these analytics into it, whatever. At some point, the analytics will balance themselves out. It's like, okay, guys, if we just stop committing stupid penalties, we could probably get an extra field goal or two a game. And now, like, we're good. Think about think about how much of a fine line that is, Michael. We're literally sending we're doom texting each other during these damn games. It's almost like in baseball with the Phillies, where it's like, dude, if we just get the sack fly, just get the sack fly, get the damn run. then it's not. You know what I
You're
mean?
gonna win most games. No, I get it. It just they just don't feel
But I think that's part of the issue. Is I think to, and I'm not absolving Patullo or Sirianni,
no,
by the
because they
way.
don't feel close. Like, it's not like, "Oh, they're stalling in midfield." It's like, well, they're getting a lot of 3 and outs. Like, they'll get
You
at the
know how
ball
you get in
in
field
field.
goal range, even if your offense is kind of like strong. They're not taking. They're. I mean, they need to take more
Think of the
shots.
Lions game, John. They how many times did they get the ball spotted to them at midfield because they were failing on 4th down, and they weren't getting points out of it. We're driving we're going crazy up there. Like, what the hell's going on?
All you have, like, to it really is. It's
Because they
like
can't get 1 first down.
just figure like I think it is to an extent fixable. This isn't like the defense of 2023 where you just didn't have talent and like not for nothing, Sean Desai and Pencil Boy were way in over their heads. It's not as it doesn't need to be as dire is what I'm saying.
They're such an anomaly, dude. They're 27th in the NFL in third down conversion rate, but then they're first in red zone conversion rate by, like, miles, and granted, they don't get in the red zone all that much. Like, the Eagles have 27 times have reached the red zone, and they've scored 21 touchdowns. It's a nice percentage, but when you look at the Colts have made into the red zone 48 times. The Rams 47 times, Packers 44 times, Lions 43 times, 49ers 43 times, Seahawks 39 times, Cowboys 44 times, Chiefs 47, Jags 42, the Arizona Cardinals 45 times. The Cardinals stink, John. The Giants 42 times. And we're at 27? Jesus Christ, man, my God, we're they just and a lot of it is because they can't run the ball, and I don't know
Yeah,
how that's gonna
but when,
change at the moment.
when Shane, so when Shane Steichen and Nick Sirianni originally came here in 2021, they didn't come here to run the ball. Like when they were hired, when Nick was hired by Howie and Jeffrey, the Eagles don't hire coaches to run the ball. Like let's be honest. Like
No, but what did it turn
be clear
into?
here.
It took them 9 weeks, and then it was like, "Well, if we want this offense to be any good, why don't we run the ball a lot? Because we also have a quarterback that can run well." And then they became a running team for since then.
Well, because
Really,
you had
they
Saquon Barkley was A,
Yeah, but I
healthy,
mean,
B,
DeAndre
your
Swift
O
rushed
line
for
was healthy.
1,300 yards. Like, they were a running team in 2023, they just couldn't pass the ball and convert a 3rd down against the blitz. They ran the ball a lot in 2022. Miles Sanders ran for over 1,000 yards. Jalen ran for, like, 800. Saquon, obviously, for 2,000 last year. They're trying to keep that running identity up, but, I mean, they don't have the facilities for it up front. And I don't know how that's gonna change this season. I think Howie's gonna, like, overcorrect in the draft, and he might draft, like, 5 offensive linemen next year or something. Obviously, the lane replacement is getting more imminent, in terms of a
Well,
need
the thing
as
is,
each week goes on
they will have cap space this offseason.
to spend even more on the offense, for Christ's sake. God.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
don't
they have the
know.
least expensive defense in the league. They've only paid Zach Bond. Everyone else is a rookie deal or a vet
Here's the
minimum.
thing, Jalen Hurts' contract is
Yeah,
now
that's
going to
gotta get
be.
kicked down the can pretty soon.
Well, I don't. Come on, man. Like
I'm
we
just
got.
saying they gotta add on more years and void years and lower that cap hit. Listen, I trust it. They always tend to figure it out. But, you know, it's just frustrating because they have a real nice opportunity here to bank home some more big ones, and they are frustrating. That is for sure. Let's pivot away from the Eagles for now, and talk about some of the other highlighted games from this past week. We're going to talk about the teams that are playing on Thanksgiving Thursday and then Black Friday, and talk about their games this past week before we preview those a little bit. So let's head over. Man, the rain is really coming down outside. Let's head over to there was a couple games that were a little irrelevant feeling, and the first one I'd say were the Patriots and the Bengals. Um, this was a
Pick the
game where
Bengals
yeah,
cover
this was they covered by what, a half a
a
point
point.
is what it was.
Hey,
Um, yeah, listen, that counts. That counts. This was like the Patriots offense came out pretty brutal to start the game, and then after that stretch of ugliness, it really settled in, and they kind of just took over the game from that point forward. And despite getting running like 8 snaps in a row inside the 3-yard line and not being able to score a touchdown, they were able to still find a way to win. So yeah, got to give them credit there. That they were
well,
able to hold them off. I mean,
they
their
had a
schedule's
very, very big injury happen to them.
yeah, yeah, Will Campbell going down, not good. The Patriots, unfortunately, just feel like not that they're like, "Oh, they're a pretender," but it's like they're just not really ready yet fully to compete in postseason football. They're very much taking advantage of their favorable schedule,
This
and
does feel like when OKC first got good.
yeah, it's just like they got guys that are gonna be here for a while and be good, but they're getting banged up and
Well, of all the teams that have a rookie quarterback on a rookie deal, they are the team that is maybe the best equipped to really take advantage of that and hammer that window.
yeah, and I if listen, they have an inside track at the 1 seed at the moment, and they might just get it and get that bye week, which would be huge. But it's just they're gonna welcome in some very scary AFC wild card team or AFC division, whatever. Probably some scary quarterback is gonna be coming into Foxborough, and it just feels like they lose in a tough divisional matchup, and it's like, well, they'll be back. And like I do think they actually will be back. It doesn't feel like a 1-year wonder sort of thing. This does feel like the beginning of a new era in New England. As far as the Bengals go, Jamar Chase didn't play because of the spit gate. Joe Burrow will be back on Thanksgiving. Jamar Chase will also be back on Thanksgiving. That'll be a nice matchup, and they'll be playing the Baltimore Ravens, who won a very ugly game against the New York Jets.
So I took the Jets. Did I take the Jets?
You did take the Jets, and they also covered by a half a point. It was 13.5, and they won by
I
13.
just know these books are just
Yeah,
sickos, man. They're sickos.
so truly remarkable. I mean, the Jets are the Jets. They're not very good, but the Ravens, they're not looking all that great, but they're just kind of winning the games against these
Yeah, but
bad
like, dude,
teams
because
they're
they're
playing.
like riding a 5 game win streak, man.
I
Dude,
mean, dude, they're first place in the AFC North. They've overtaken the Steelers. That happened very quickly. What did that happen in the minimum amount of weeks it could have happened since Lamar returned? I
that is
mean,
correct.
yeah. So I mean, they didn't waste any time. And again, like I said last week or last episode, that if the Ravens, their top priority just has to be stacking wins, and as they go along the season, figure things out and get to a point where they feel ready to be competitive in the playoffs. Unfortunately for them, I just think their offensive line is not up to snuff, and their receiver room is just ultimately not good enough to create consistent separation. And feels like every red zone highlight or every clip I saw of the Ravens game was Lamar running for his life. And in years prior, he'd be running for his life, and then there's a Raven wide open that he hits for a big completion, and now it's like he's running for his life. The ball's flying downfield, and no Raven is open anywhere, or he's taking a sack because no one's open. And it's just one of those years. It's the down year for the Ravens. The offensive line's not great. The receivers we know haven't ever really been great. They show flashes here and there. They got Zay Flowers is a nice player, but he's far from like a true dominant number one wideout. You know, the one, I guess, all-encompassing NFL point is that, like, the Rams signed Devonte Adams, and that has been nothing but beautiful fireworks and song and dance for the Rams.
Well, he's definitely a better number 2 receiver for the
I mean,
Rams than
Devontae
Cooper
Adams is
Kupp is.
great. Like he's cooking everywhere. The release is still great. He's a wonderful red zone threat. He's still got speed, even though he's 33 years old. And it's like that really would have helped pretty much every other AFC team that is a good team. That would really would
Well,
have helped
I
Kansas City,
suspect see,
really would have helped Baltimore,
I think
really
with,
would have helped Buffalo.
Tay Adams is that I think he wanted to stay in California. Like
I mean,
because
regardless, I think if the money was
he
big
played at Fresno State. He's a California guy. I mean, at the time, Rams, Ravens. I mean, the big issue with the Ravens though is like, is there any reason why they like if the Dolphins were trying to get a first round pick next year for Jalen Waddle, then if the Ravens called the Dolphins, who had a worse pick at the time than the Bills did, why wouldn't you just trade your first round pick you're probably going to use on a wide receiver anyway to
I
get
mean,
Jalen Waddle at the
sure.
deadline?
I just think that Devontae Adams was available, and I mean, I don't think
I agree with you though.
you all could have
But
all those teams could have
if
offered
the
him more
dude
money
doesn't
than the
want to be on the
Rams.
East Coast, you're kind of screwed in free agency. That's why I mentioned trade because you kind of don't like if you told Jalen Waddle, "Hey, do you want to play with Lamar Jackson in
I mean, if you
Baltimore?"
told Devontae Adams you want to play with Lamar Jackson, you think he would have said no?
Well, no, but like
Or Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes?
but he had the choice to pick where he wanted to go. He chose Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay. Like
They
I
could have
don't.
up. I just think they could have upped their offer. Like I'm not.
What's his contract here? Let me
It's
look it up.
not much. He got like 22 guaranteed, roughly. Very similar guaranteed money
Well,
to Cooper Cup.
I think that was sort of like a done deal before it was a done deal.
I don't know, man. I just think that was what the going rate market was, and you could have spent a little more on
Like
a.
the Rams have apparently like a crap load of cap space next year. A lot of free agents they got to re-sign, but they have a lot of cap space.
I don't know. I'm not in the business of excusing these three front offices with the three best quarterbacks in the league that are unable to build good enough weapons around them. Like I'm just go pay an actual really good receiver. Stop trying to like rinky dink around with these scat guys and these number three receivers and these fake number one guys and like the Ravens had no trouble signing DeAndre Hopkins, but you weren't going to go get
You
Devontae
know,
Adams.
everyone makes fun of the Titans for signing all these washed up wide receivers. Bro, the Ravens do it just
The
as much.
Ravens take the Titans washed up guys, like so. It's just I don't know. It's just anybody could have got Devontae Adams, and
I
they would have
agree.
been a hell of a lot better off for it. But
All
regardless, that
right,
was a
let's talk
tangent.
about this next
Giants
game.
Lions, man. Jameis playing, very classic Jameis game. Some ridiculous plays, two trick play touchdowns the Giants scored, one of which a little flea flicker that he makes a man miss and then launches a ball like 60 yards down the field to a wide open Wandale Robinson. And then the other, he catches a little pseudo Philly special, a contested catch, mind you. Like he had to go
Big guy.
get back to the ball and then make a man miss and then run it in for like really ridiculous, classic Jameis
Basically
Winston
the type of
performance.
crap the Lions used to
Yes,
run with Ben
yes.
Johnson.
Yeah, and also, Jameis had some pretty horrible turnovers that cost them too. So, classic Jameis there. More about the Lions though is that I mean Jahmyr Gibbs is obviously a freak. We all know this. He's incredible. Um,
He had the most fantasy points out of any player so far this year in a game.
I could believe that. It felt like their defense was kind of walking around like their shit don't stink after, you know, dominating the Eagles, even though they lost. And
I
kind of
think
just
the
thought they
win
could.
greatly helped their defense out
I
well
mean,
as our defense was
sure,
aided
I
by the
guess.
win.
I think that it was just they kind of felt they could throw their helmets onto the field against the Giants and shut them
Oh,
down with a
shocker!
look
A team
ahead
that's very
to.
arrogant and full of themselves overlooks awful
I
football
mean,
team
listen,
and
and
almost
like this is
loses.
and a home game against a bad team sandwiched between 2 or, a very difficult road game, and then the in division Thanksgiving home game, makes sense to overlook it. They're very fortunate to get out of there with a win. Jahmyr Gibbs kinda threw the team on his back. Big win for the Lions. Not super encouraging, I'd say, but, um, definitely something they needed to keep pace with this team that we're gonna talk about now, the Chicago Bears. They'll be playing the Eagles on Black Friday, but they were able to win yet another grimy, close, ugly game. They defeated the Mason Rudolph-led Pittsburgh Steelers by 3 points, 31 to 28.
You know,
Um
I don't want to get into the next game. Mason Rudolph is better than 9. Like that's I'm sorry.
Oh, sure. No,
He just
yeah.
is.
Well, we're not getting into him yet, but Rudolph, I mean, if Rodgers was playing in this game, maybe his health, we don't know how well he would have played, but like what Aaron Rodgers has been up to this point for the Steelers, that would have been enough to win this game on Sunday. Rudolph, he's limited mentally as well in terms of like checking plays at the line. Obviously, it's something Rodgers is great at, and something that Rudolph and most backup quarterbacks are not great at. Um, but the Bears, they're like Caleb. It's just so interesting. Caleb Williams, they'll play a game where it's like, the stats don't look super great. There's a lot of plays that you look at that aren't super great. He obviously took his worst sack of the year in the end zone against TJ Watt there. Um,
Fumbles.
Fumbles, touchdown, all of it was terrible. But he does still make some throws that are like, "Ooh, like, that's really special." Like, "Ooh, that's really good." And, you know, the only reason he took the awful TJ Watt sack is because he's been so good at evading sacks all year that he had the confidence of, "I'm just gonna outrun him and get away
It was
from
like
this."
Jalen taking the safety against the Rams in the playoff game where he was so
Yeah,
good
just
at
assuming
evading
you can
them.
do it, and then you can't. So it'll be a very interesting game and matchup this week with Caleb Williams against this Eagles defense. We know they've struggled with quarterbacks that can move a little bit, like that can scramble and run in the past. So it'll be interesting to keep an eye on that. But the Bears defense continues to show it's just not a good unit, and especially with the injuries to Edmonds and Jalen Johnson, it's just pretty horrible. They rank like 27th, I think, in points or whatever points
Yeah,
allowed.
this is the first year with like the Ben Johnson regime, and
It's
kind
just
of
not a very talented unit
well,
defensively.
I will say them and the Patriots are very similar, where like now they have like good coaching, so like they're winning games because I think because they have easy schedules too. Like both teams
Mhm,
have last place schedules. This is, I mean, I'll say this though, like they're going to be a team that's also going to be very active in free agency,
mhm.
and not for nothing, I trust like the New England's GM over like Ryan Poles. Ryan Poles, I don't
Yeah,
think
for sure.
is a very good GM. When TJ Watt like jaw jacked Darnell Wright, like Bears fans are like, "Oh, thank God we got Darnell Wright over that um undisciplined Jalen Carter." Like some Bears fans were someone Bears fan like obvious just rage bait, and then
Mhm.
all the Bears fans are like, "You're an absolute idiot."
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah. I mean, like, not for he has been good. It's not to say he's been some sort of bum, but, like, defensively, they're just very, like, depleted of talent at this point, and it's like they're 8-3, and fraudulent fraudulent has such, like, a negative connotation where it's like saying a team's fraudulent just feels, like, angry. You know what I
just say it,
mean?
Michael. They're a lot like last year's Commanders team, except Jaden
I
Daniels was better,
hold on. Yeah,
better than Caleb Williams.
let me digest this for a second. Like, defensively, they're definitely pretty similar. I think the Commanders' offense last year was more, like, reliable, I'd say. I don't think this Bears team would have had a chance to hang, like what did they put up, 50 on the Lions in the divisional round? I don't think the Bears would have done that at all. Um
Probably.
It's similar. There's certainly similarities. It's I guess in, like, the way the games are kinda going, where it feels like all the breaks are sort of breaking their way in the most, like, un-Bears way imaginable. Usually, it's everything goes against the Bears, and the Bears can never catch a break, but it feels like this year they're getting all the breaks. Everything's going their way. They're choking games, but they're still winning, and it's like, this doesn't feel like
I
the
mean,
Bears at
don't you
all.
think it's more miraculous that they scored that touchdown despite giving up the onside kick than like a Hail
Right, like,
Mary?
they're yeah, like, they're 8-3, but they're, like, pretty clearly the 3rd best team in their division, I'd say.
So, all right. I have Jaden Daniels. I'm pulling up his numbers from last season 25 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, played in all 17 games. Would you like to see Caleb Williams' numbers
I'm sure
through?
they're not as good, I have to say.
Okay.
Listen, I didn't disagree with it. I think the offense as a whole
I
in
First
Washington
off,
is
Caleb
better.
Williams. All right, Michael, you have to admit, I know you like Caleb Williams. Don't
I
deny
do
it.
like Caleb, I do.
All right, Caleb Williams this year has 16 touchdowns and 4 picks. He is on track to finish with the exact same numbers passing that Jade Daniels had last year.
I mean, sure. We're
The only
just
reason, like,
watching
yeah,
it, though, like, we see it, it's not nearly the same. Like, the Bears are a good running offense, but the eye test does not tell you that. Like, that
okay,
is you look at the stats and you see it's there, but when you watch the Bears, you don't see a good running team. You don't see a great run blocking team. You just see, like, I guess Ben Johnson's cooking up just enough. The Bears are very much poised to, I would say, honestly, miss the playoffs because their schedule is brutal to end the year. The entire top 3 of the NFC North have a pretty difficult schedule to finish the year, but the Bears, I'd say, is probably the worst one. Um, I think they're poised. I don't think they're going to win the division. I think there's a good chance they miss the playoffs, and if they make it, I definitely think they lose in the first round. And I think they're taking steps in the right direction, absolutely. But I do think they're a few little ways away from actually being a true contender. And that's like everything. That's Caleb getting a little better. That's getting a lot of help on defense. That's, you know, making that receiver room a little bit better. Maybe make the running back room a little bit. It's just everything's got to get a little bit better if the Bears want to truly be serious. Um, but let's it's time. There was another NFC North matchup. The Green Bay Packers took on the Minnesota Vikings, and on full
the
display,
banged up Packers.
on full display was, I would say, maybe the what is he, like, the 45th best quarterback in the league? Is it worse than that? He's he's definitely outside the top 32, like, with ease, I think. JJ McCarthy.
Is it sad that the only two quarterbacks in my lifetime, Michael, that the Vikings have drafted that look remotely competent, and I'm 37 years old, by the way, that I've seen, Michael, are Dante Culpepper and Teddy
Solid.
Bridgewater. That's it.
That's not good, man, and especially because 'cause they've drafted a lot because
Well, like
a lot of them are
Christian
bad.
Ponder,
Yeah.
Tarvaris Jackson, RIP, and now you got 9.
9. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you could have been sold on a kid that in, like, every big game that his college team played, their offensive strategy was to just not throw the ball. Like,
Even
just
like Will Howard and like Quinn Ewers, who like
they were part of the offense. Like, JJ McCarthy was now, and, like, honestly, disservice to Michigan. Like, I'm faulting them for this. You're a top flight program. I know you wanna win, but it's like, Jesus Christ, man. If you think this kid's a bum so much, then the hell are you doing? But yeah, I mean, the lack of reps are just
well,
all
so
there.
I'll say this. This is like an old head reference I'm about to make.
Yeah,
Or kind of like so you've heard of like the Miami Hurricanes of like the late 90s and the early 2000s,
yeah.
how they were just had like they at one point the running back room, they had Willis McGahee, Frank Gore, Clinton Portis, and Edgerrin James at one
Mhm,
point in their running back room. Okay. Their
mhm.
quarterback was his name's Ken Dorsey. You probably heard of Ken Dorsey. He's an NFL coach.
Force.
You've
Yeah.
heard of Ken Dorsey before. He was their quarterback. Ken Dorsey was a seventh round pick, Michael. He basically looks like Nine did when he was in college. They basically what happened was that JJ McCarthy lifted some weights, looked good at the combine, and the Vikings just decided we need a quarterback, which is true. They needed a quarterback. And they completely overdrafted him.
Like, I think it's to a point where so much needs to change for him to get actually, like, viable in the NFL that it's worth cutting your losses now. I'm not saying, like, get rid of him or whatever, but I'm saying, like, go get a new quarterback next year. Like, he's gotta put on more muscle to get, like, the arm strength up, and then he's gotta clean up some more mechanics, and,
I
like,
could buy the Vikings as a fringe playoff team next year, like a fringe wildcard team, if they brought in Kyler and Kevin O'Connell can just fix Kyler.
yeah, no, there's a lot of there's a lot of quarterbacks that could have potentially moved, whether Kyler
Your dad
or
is calling me, by the way.
he's probably calling you about, Thanksgiving, if I had to guess. I mean, I'd give him a call back after this if
Yeah.
you know, that's my assumption, just to confirm some plans, but anyways, yeah, I think that the Vikings would be better off with a better quarterback. He just holds the team back in every sense of the word. The Packers were able to run the ball like 40 times this weekend. Jordan Love's playing with like one hand basically. Josh Jacobs was out, and it was just a pretty calm, casual like blowout. They held them to under 200 total yards of offense. Um, they what was it? What was the crazy stat? It was like if you include the sacks as like negative passing yards, the Packers had like more plays than the Vikings had passing yards, I think was the crazy stat. More plays than passing yards
Yeah.
if the sacks negated passing yards. Pretty putrid. As far as Green Bay goes, they're banged up, but their defense has been playing pretty well against some struggling offenses. Offensively, they were able to do what they love to do, which is just kind of pound the football for whatever reason. Obviously, in that sort of game, it was fine and smart to do, but uh, I do think their ceiling comes when they kind of open it up. We'll see how they look Thursday doing that. But I, you know, their defense is very, very good. Can be inconsistent at times, but Micah Parsons truly is a game wrecker. Made their starting left tackle, whose name like consistently escapes me, because he is a
Darisaw?
good, yeah, yeah, yeah. Christian Darisaw, and made him just look not very good, and he is quite good. And Parsons made him look pretty bad. So yeah, yeah. This final game we want to talk about before we get into our picks for Thursday and Friday is the Colts and the Chiefs.
Game of the week.
Game of the week, sure, yeah. The Colts couldn't really do much of anything on offense kind of the entire game, I'd say. All the like underlying stuff was pretty bad. The success rate was bad. The third down conversions were bad. The passing game was bad. The running game was
I
bad.
mean,
All of
you're
it was bad.
playing. I mean, I'll say this: Daniel Jones, like, did he have a great game? Like, not
No,
no. Was he bad? No.
he wasn't.
I
No, he
wouldn't.
wasn't terrible, but
I
like
mean,
he wasn't.
I wouldn't pin the loss on him. I mean, I would say this: like, listen, we all knew entering that game the Chiefs were.
Well, go ahead, go ahead.
I mean, Jonathan Taylor. I mean, all things considered, kind of like the Steeler game, kind of was a non factor. You know,
I think the Colts got in the way of the running game wasn't working early, and they abandoned it. And I think when your
probably
quarterback is
the biggest
limited,
knock on Steichen as a play caller is when the running game's not there. They literally, you saw the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. The running game's not there. They will just straight up abandon it.
yeah, I mean, they lose the game 23-20 in overtime, and the final. let me pull this up because this was pretty egregious. The final handful of drives for the Colts after they kicked a field goal to go up 20-9, and they had an 11-point lead entering the fourth quarter. And the first drive in the fourth quarter, the Chiefs fumble. They get down all the way into the red zone, and Kareem Hunt fumbles. And after that happened, it felt like, wow, the Chiefs
Game
are really going
over.
to lose and they're going to miss the playoffs. And then they proceed to go negative 2-yard run up the middle, and then incompletion, incompletion, punt. Chiefs drive down, score a touchdown. Next drive, incompletion, 7-yard completion, incompletion, punt. Then the Chiefs punt, and it's like, okay, we have the ball back here, up 3 points. We can really put the game away. What do? Incompletion, incompletion, 6-yard pass, punt. Like they after they had an 11-point game and the Chiefs fumbled, they ran the ball one time and then threw the ball the remaining plays to go through 3 straight 3 and outs. Run, pass, pass, punt, pass, 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 punt, pass, 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 punt. And the Chiefs are able to tie the game and get to overtime. And then, John, you may say, well, what goes down in overtime? 4-yard pass, 5-yard run, and then they get stuffed on 3rd and 1 on a run. They try to get to it, and then the Chiefs go down and kick a field goal, win the game. They got away from the run, like you said, Steichen. The run game wasn't working, and they got away from it. And when your quarterback is as limited as Daniel Jones is, and like pretty much that full stop, you need to give the ball to your best player. And your best player is Jonathan Taylor by a mile. And he's
Exactly. It's
so
like
good.
it's like 2019 Tennessee Titans.
Yeah.
Daniel Jones is Tannehill, basically. And
Yeah.
you gotta feed the ball to Derrick Henry
And it's like
back
if
then, and
they're
now you
truly
feed the
loading the
ball to
box, yeah. If they're truly loading the box, you gotta find a way to get them the ball out in space.
Yeah, but
Throw
if
it
you're
to
going to
him in the
read
flat,
option, they're going to
something.
crash and cheat to stop Jonathan Taylor. Get Daniel Jones involved in the ground game.
He can move too. Yeah, no, it just was too much putting the ball in Daniel Jones's hands. And it's like maybe he's trying to test him to see if he can do it. And like he just can't.
Michael,
Like,
I honestly, I just think it was a case of, hey, you're in Arrowhead. It's considered the hardest place to play in the NFL. You had the Chiefs on the ropes, but like, come on, man, we've seen Patrick Mahomes win these games all the time.
I
It's
mean,
not
all would have taken was like among the three and outs, maybe like
so.
2 total first
And
downs, and
I
they
just,
probably
I'm
don't have
gonna
enough time.
before we jump into the picks for the holiday, we'll call them the holiday picks.
Yeah.
I want to bring up something about the Jaguar schedule, just because that the Jaguars are only one game back of the Colts. There is a possibility if the Colts, who have their schedule now, their difficulty now ramps up.
Yeah.
There's a chance the Colts could maybe get like the 7th seed.
I mean, they could we could say it. They could miss the playoffs,
They could
John. I
miss the
mean,
playoff.
their
Okay, all right.
schedule is very difficult, and they're a game up on the Jags, who are, while we don't really have a lot of belief in the Jags, they are clearly a mixed bag that can win any given Sunday,
I
clearly.
have no read on the Jags. It's literally
They
like
can win any game, and they could also lose any game, and we
the
have no idea what
Jaguars
that's
are
gonna end up
basically
in.
like the magic 8 ball of the league, where you
Yeah,
shake it and
yeah,
anything can happen.
but
Well,
also the
this is the
Houston
Jaguars
Texans, John.
schedule.
Okay,
What's
go
that?
ahead. No,
This
go
is
ahead.
the Jaguars schedule. They play the Titans this Sunday. Okay. Then they play the Colts at home. Then they play the Jets at home. Then they have to travel to Denver to play the Broncos, which, look, man, we know your proclivities towards Bo Nix.
Listen, we'll see
Did Bo
by
Nix
that
just hand
time.
them the game? Maybe. I don't know. He could do that theoretically. And then they got to play the Colts again, and then they end the year playing the Titans. So, Michael, the Jaguars have 3 insanely winnable games, and they can split the Colts matchup, and they could
Yeah.
win the division.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, the division is totally unwatched.
If you're the Jags, just beat the Titans twice, the worst team in the league, and beat the Jets, and you probably win the division.
Yeah, and it's like it's also the Texans are only 2 games behind the Jags, or excuse me, behind the
And the and the
Colts,
and the
and the Texans have the
Texans
best defense in the league. Like, the
split.
Texans defense can stop anybody, and it's like, okay, so there's your 2 teams in your division that are on your heels, and then it's like, let's look around at the other teams in the AFC playoff picture, and you're like, "Oh, Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. Oh, Josh Allen, the Buffalo Bills. Oh, Lamar Jackson, the Ravens. Oh, the Steelers who have 6 wins." Like, there are a lot of teams that are competitive right now in the AFC where I wouldn't favor the Colts to miss the playoffs. I wouldn't even necessarily favor them to not win the division, but I do think that it is quite possible, and like you mentioned, that they end up sliding from one of their, you know, perches at the top of the AFC. But we will see how that unfolds as the coming weeks come and go. But we need to look at now. We have 4 games to pick. We have 3 games, classic Thanksgiving tradition. Um, the Packers at Lions at noon, the Chiefs at Cowboys at 4:30, and then the Bengals at Ravens at 8:20, and then Black Friday we have the Bears at the Eagles at 3 o'clock. So let us start off in Detroit at noon, Thanksgiving Day, in division matchup, Packers at Lions. The first time these 2 teams matched up was way back in week 1, and it was pretty much belt to ass for the Packers to the
Yeah, we
Lions.
thought the
Micah
Packers were
Parsons.
going to be like what the Rams are, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah, best. We thought they were gonna run the league. We thought Micah Parsons was gonna sleepwalk to a decoy, all this sort of stuff. And obviously they're still good, but not what we thought they were gonna be. And the Lions, we kind of thought they were gonna flounder and maybe suck, and like they're not that either. They're both somewhere in the middle. So this is a humongous game where both these teams are trailing the Bears in the division, but both feel better than the Bears. This is a huge game for just we don't have to set the table. Like the Lions are um, six. The Lions are 7-4. The Packers are 7-3-1. Like, or we're talking about these huge seeding implications. Are the Packers going to sweep the Lions this year? Are the Lions going to keep pushing for that division? Is the tie going to be ultimately the pro
I
tiebreaker
mean, a
for Green
lot of
Bay?
people. I mean, this is what Vegas wants. No one knows what to pick here.
Yeah, it's split, man.
Spread.
It's an even split, pretty much. I think the Lions are 2.5 point favorites at home.
I mean, I'm taking Detroit, and I'm going to kind of give you my reasoning why. One, splitting the division, makes sense. Revenge game implications. They obviously overlooked obviously overlooked the Giants like this past week because they're
Right.
looking at this game, and Packers are just too banged up, man.
Yeah, I think I'm there with you, John. I'm thinking of like what's the best unit out of these 2 teams, and I'm wrestling between the Lions offense and the Packers defense, and I would say they're pretty close to similar. The Lions offense probably has a slight edge, and where that edge I think gets amplified is where this game is going to be, where the game is going to be played. Obviously, week 1, but if this game was in Lambeau, I'd be taking Green Bay. Outside in the cold, I think the defense plays bigger there, and Green Bay's got the better defense. However, schedule makers, and obviously this is Thanksgiving tradition, this would never be different anyways. The Lions are at home. The Detroit Lions are at home and on their home turf, indoors. I think that just favors the Lions more than it favors the Packers in that way. And like you said, they're banged up. Josh Jacobs, questionable, probably not going to be getting his full workload. Not that Emmanuel Wilson's been bad by any stretch, but they're just not at their full. They're not at their full strength and their full
I
tilt.
just think
So
that the weakness of the Lions isn't affected by the receivers of Green Bay, just because Green Bay, another team, they just don't really go out to really to get that number one receiver. we said it on the show before. They took Matthew Golden, and then Igbuka was picked 4 spots earlier. Like, just trade up and then draft
Yeah.
Igbuka. Everyone knew it.
Ted
Everyone,
McMillan was there, right?
everyone knew Igbuka was going to be good. Like, literally, everyone knew it, right?
Oh no, Ted McMillan was 8th. Sorry, excuse me. I forgot he went that high.
Yeah,
Um,
dude. Then the
I
people were calling the Panthers to trade up
trying to get him.
to get Tet. They said no because we want Tet. You know.
Yeah, sorry about that. But yeah, the Packers. I think this game's gonna be close for what it's worth. I do think it's gonna be
I
close.
think it's going to be a close game. I think it's
It's
going to
gonna be your
be.
classic score. Both teams are in the
I could
20s, but I just think
see.
the Lions pull
I
away.
could see it being tied, and then the Lions just drive down.
Game-winning field goal. Yeah, I
Mhm.
could see it too. I'm with you with Detroit. The next game we have here. This is gargantuan size implications for both of these teams for an intra-conference matchup. It's usually not this big of stakes, but the Dallas Cowboys hosting the Kansas City Chiefs. Both teams pretty much, you know, seasons were on life support this past week, and they both saved their seasons for the moment with victories against two of the top teams in their respective conferences. And listen, the Cowboys, the odds for them to make the playoffs are still a long shot. However, they did a very difficult thing, which was beating the Eagles, and they play the Chiefs here, and they play the Lions next week. Winning 2 of 3 in this 3-game stretch would bode very, very well for them to have a favorable they have a favorable schedule to end the season, then potentially to sneak in the playoffs as a, 7 seed or so. They are, what is it, straight 3 points, 3.5 point underdogs at home. The Kansas City Chiefs obviously won to save their season. They probably could afford maybe one other loss at this point, but it would behoove them to like run the table for a little bit and
Well,
make
no,
their lives a little
it's
easier.
all about building momentum because
Yeah, and it's like that Colts win, come from behind, gritty, whatever. That should be a momentum builder for them. That in theory should carry over into Dallas on Thanksgiving.
I'm taking the Chiefs as well. To me,
Hold on, I don't know if I'm taking the Chiefs, but go ahead.
no, this is why I'm taking Kansas City. Like the Cowboys, despite them coming back and winning, even their fans were like, "I'm annoyed that they're acting like we won the Super Bowl. Like we had so much go our way just to win." To you know what it felt. You know what that reminded me of when we played New England in 2015, and like we had the 2 pick sixes, and we almost still lost, almost still blew that
Yeah,
game.
yeah.
You know, that's kind of what it was. And to me, like, listen, man, the Chiefs win close games all the time. We can't just be like, oh, the Chiefs won a close game. That means they're going to lose the next game. Well, like, no,
I I'm trying.
like,
I'm
I'm not
really.
really going on that logic there. Now, listen, man, Chiefs. There's going to be a lot of Chiefs fans at this game. You know, there's a lot of Eagles fans at the last game. There's going to be a lot of Chiefs fans at this game. I want to. I'll say this though. Trent McDuffie on following George Pickens. Spagnuolo just got to dial up tons of blitzes. We've seen this a lot with Dak this year. He'll have a really good game, and then he follows it up with a stinker right after. And that's kind of been the Cowboys season. It's like they look when they take 2 steps forward, they take 2 steps back, and they're just stuck in neutral.
Mm, mhm. Mm, I I don't know, man.
You want to take the Cowboys?
I do want to take the Cowboys because I'm thinking how this game is going to look, and it's like the Chiefs haven't blown anybody out or won comfortably against anybody that has not been like hot ass. And like, if I had to guess, the season's going to end, and it's going to be like, the Cowboys defense before the trade deadline was the worst in the league, and the Cowboys defense
Oh,
after the
like when the
trade
Ravens got
deadline was,
Roquan Smith.
yeah, like I mean, listen, we saw Quentin Williams is been a massive impact, like,
Yeah, the
season
Chiefs don't
altering
run the
impact.
ball. They can't run the ball, so who
I
cares?
I
Who
I hear
cares
you.
about Quinn Williams? And
I I mean, Trey Smith is very much banged up. That doesn't help. I mean, Quinn Williams can rush the passer. We know this. I think I'm going to take Dallas plus 3.5 because, and not necessarily that they're going to win, but I think if the Chiefs are going to win this game, they're going to win a close game, like you said. And I just think to me, it screams by a field goal. And I'll take the Cowboys plus that extra half a point to cover. I'm thinking of that defensive matchup for KC, and it's like if the Chiefs are going to cover, I don't think it's going to be a close game. If
You,
the
you,
Chiefs are
you want to hear?
covering,
You want to hear something disgusting?
hmm,
The big matchup is Matt Nagy, the offensive coordinator for the Chiefs, former Bears head coach, against his successor, who is the defensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys, in Matt
Matt Eber,
Eberflus.
listen, maybe Eberflus is cooking something up. I don't know. I
Uh,
I think
okay,
the
cooking
I
something
think
up right
the only way the Chiefs carry the cover, like you said, is if Dak lays a stinker. If Dak lays a stinker and Dak lays a stinker, and the Chiefs are going to win pretty comfortably. I just don't know if he's gonna lay a stinker. I think he's gonna play
Do you
alright, and
think
I
Dak's
think
divisional record against the NFC East is like one of the most annoying things you've ever
it's
seen?
annoying and good
When
for
you
them. They're
see
not
some of the
playing the
ways
NFC.
they win games as a result of it.
For sure. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Dallas plus 3.5, very tentatively. I'll probably wrestle with this before I actually place some real money wagers on it, but I am gonna take Dallas. I think the Chiefs win this game, like a 24-21, like a real they could win this game similarly to how the Eagles lost this past week. Like, they could do what the Cowboys did to us. Couldn't you see that too? Dallas and everything's all Cowboysed up, and Romo's loving it. He's so happy, and it's like, "Oh boy, Dallas might actually be building some momentum here." And then Romo gets even more happy because he can be like, "Oh, Patrick Mahomes throw it on this Superman cape and another come from behind victory." Ah, ah, ah." And the Chiefs come back and they win. And I just think it's by a field goal, not by 4. I think that's where we differ. I think if this line was 2.5, I'd be with you on Kansas City. If this line was 3, I'd probably even be with you at Kansas City. But that half a point, man, that's holding a lot of weight for me. I'm gonna take Dallas plus the 3.5. Maybe I'm way off base here. Maybe I'm way off base, but I don't know. I just it's just the vibe I'm sitting with at the moment. Next game, rounding out Thanksgiving evening, the Cincinnati Bengals are in Baltimore to take on the Ravens. Now, we said this earlier, Burrow's back, Chase is
Right.
back. Ravens are
Can I
7-point favorites.
may I bring something up to you?
Sure.
Joe Burrow last year threw a JJ McCarthy number of touchdowns against the Baltimore Ravens in 2 games. 9 passing touchdowns, Michael. Jamar Chase is back. That's a lot of points. Like, that's just, I mean, like, what? They're going to lose by like double digits, and like Burrow's going to just flay them alive.
I,
Like,
I'm
that feels a little hard to believe.
this is a this is tough because obviously Baltimore's defense has been playing better as of late. Granted, they haven't been playing some
These
great
are just two teams
offenses.
that just flat out they suck at covering the.
Right. Right. They haven't been playing good offenses.
You might as well just flip a coin.
Yeah.
Heads
But then
Ravens, tails
you look at the
Bengals.
Bengals. Yeah, you look at the Bengals side of things, and it's like their defense is atrocious, as we know. But in theory, the offense should kind of be cooking. I don't know. I I guess I'm gonna bet on like some Burrow rust coming back from a pretty nasty, foot
Well,
injury and the surgery.
your boy Brock Purdy threw 3 touchdowns coming back, and then he literally almost blew his team the game
I
with
mean, he threw
his,
3 picks.
the following week. So maybe it's like the rust happens the second game. Like he's gonna cook Baltimore, and then who do the Bengals play after Baltimore? Let's see. Watch them have to play like the Browns,
It could be. I don't know. It might be actually.
and then Miles Garrett's gonna get 9. Is gonna break the sack record that day. Oh, they play the Bills after they play the Ravens, Michael. and then they play the Ravens again after they play the Bills. So,
Oh, Jesus
dude,
Christ.
they
God.
and then they finished the year Dolphins, Cardinals, Browns. So, dude, they just gonna get smoked 3 weeks in a row.
Yeah. Yeah,
It
it's
feels
tough.
like the Ravens will cover this game. The Bengals then they'll just lose. The Bills have to win, right?
What, they're gonna win the last
Josh
5
Allen
they're
is
gonna
going
win
to
5 in a row to end the season again and miss the
Josh,
playoffs by
as
half a game.
Tony says, Josh is just going to stat pad like crazy on the hapless Bengals.
Yeah.
Then they're going to
Are
probably cover against the Ravens in the second matchup. Then they'll win the last 3 games against like 3 teams that are basically giving up on the season. And then everyone's going to be like, if the Bengals just go out in free agency and do something they never do, which is spend money,
well, they don't do that.
and then draft,
That's not happening. There's a better
not
chance they
draft
trade Joe
draft a
Burrow
guy that
than spend in free
someone said
agency.
might be the most like boomer bust pick in recent NFL history in Shamar Stewart, who has
Yeah, I
got
mean, there's higher probability they trade Joe Burrow in the offseason than sign big money in free agency. Um, but I'm gonna take Baltimore with you here. I don't know. Weird. Like it's a good Thanksgiving slate. I think we should get 3
I
good games. I
agree.
have no idea what's gonna happen if I'm being completely honest. But yeah, let's wrap up here with Black Friday football, Eagles Bears. We talked a lot about the Eagles already. So looking at this game, Reed Blankenship likely playing, as Vic Fangio says, is pretty enormous.
Yeah, I would
If he
agree.
wasn't playing, I would be very, very terrified of what this game could end up being. But he does calm a lot of my anxiety. I am intrigued to see what they do with the corner situation. I hope they learned that it should not be DeJean, and they just kind of roll out Ringo and Bennett if you need to, whatever you got to do. Um, and then with Blankenship and Sidney Brown on the safeties, I like you should be fine. I think Caleb Williams' legs pose a serious threat for the Eagles. It's something they tend to struggle with, in the Vic Fangio defense. He's going to be very annoying to sack, as we know. Um, but I think the Cowboys defense, like I said, it could be misleading. Like I think we're going to get the stats are going to roll in that post trade deadline, the Cowboys defense was one of the best in the league. Quentin Williams, what a great trade. All that sort of stuff.
You know what's kind of
Where
scares me a little bit, Michael? You know who's just flat out cooled off? Roma Dunze. Like last game against Pittsburgh, 9 targets, 3 catches.
Yeah, no, I mean they can't.
He's banged up, and I think Quinyon Mitchell is going to be covering him, and then it's just going to be old DJ Moore, who really hasn't had the season he would like to have. Like you don't want it to be like he just all of a sudden oh my god, DJ Moore, remember how good he used to be when he was on the Panthers catching
Right.
passes
No,
from
I
PJ
yeah,
Walker?
I think we're gonna see the biggest thing is gonna be the Eagles offense if they can score on a actually bad Bears defense. We thought the Cowboys defense is bad, and I'm telling you, it's probably gonna end up being good by the end of the season. Um, but this Bears defense, it did not add any Pro Bowl, potentially all pro caliber players at the trade deadline. They did not add any difference makers. They are just a bad unit that is going to continue to be bad. So if there was ever an opportunity for a get right game, like the Eagles defenses they play the rest of the season are just not good. Straight up. The best one left is the Chargers, and that's hit or miss. But all the other ones are just kind of straight ass. So if there's an opportunity for them to play a complete offensive game for once, uh, at home on Friday would be a wonderful time to do so and kind of calm everyone's nerves a little bit. But until we see it, you're gonna have to see it to believe it. I will take the Eagles -7. It's a huge spread, but I'm thinking, um, in my mind, this is a like 27 to like maybe 27-20. Maybe it ends up being a push, but like 27-13, and maybe the Bears score a late touchdown, and the analytics, they're gonna go for 2 to try to get it to 6, and that will make or break the spread. So, give me the Eagles -7.
Let's see. Eagles 7-4 against the spread.
Yeah, I mean,
Bears
when they
6.
win, they cover usually.
So, when's the last time Jalen Hurts has covered a 7-point spread?
7's a lot. I mean, not
I'm
this
taking
year,
the
right?
Bears. Michael, I hate to say it, but like until the Eagles can, I don't know, figure out their offense and I don't know, I mean, it's Black Friday.
Short week. Short week for everybody all around.
And well,
They covered a 7-point spread, against,
the Giants.
yeah, it was 7 flat.
Wow, that's the
The
Giants, Michael. This is the Bears.
the scary, big and scary 8-3 Bears. We said this, like, last week. If I told you the Bears were 8-3 coming into Black Friday, what the hell would we be thinking? And it definitely we weren't thinking this. We weren't thinking the Bears would not be, like, that scary at 8-3. Like, not that we think they're, like, garbage, but we definitely aren't terrified, you know? Any other 8-3 team, I would kinda think they're gonna lose, but I feel pretty confident, that they should be able to win the game, and if it's close, like, I do trust the Eagles in a close game against, like, a pretty inexperienced team, I'd say. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I would
but
say, look, man, we can't get into this thing after the year in the Super Bowl where we're like the players are like, oh, we just need to get a new OC and that'll just fix everything. Like that attitude, like
no,
we
the players, it would behoove them for this week to come out and, like, really, like, just try their asses off. I know that sound like, "Oh, they're not trying." Like, no, but you gotta make it a point. Like, the offensive line especially needs to make it a point to not, like, quit on plays, to not be lazy, to not, you know, stop blocking after a half a second and, like, hold everything together. They, I think, as a unit, really need to bear down against, again, this is not a good defense, like, at all. Looking at, um
yeah, you said this about the Cowboys last week, and
well, and
they
I'm
put an
telling
extra
you that
down
I think
lineman,
they're
and
good
then all of a
now.
sudden the Eagles are like they haven't seen it all season. A team putting 5 defensive linemen at the line of
Yeah,
scrimmage.
right. Like, I think that potentially it seems as though that defense is gonna end up being good. Um, and defensively, where why is Football Reference doing this to me? Team offense, passing offense, rushing offense. Why is it all just offense? Hold on. I want to pull up some defense rankings. Thank you. Jesus, that was very annoying. Yards per, I want per game stats. All right. The Chicago Bears are the fifth worst rushing defense by yards per game. They give up 142.6 yards per game. The only teams that are worse than them are the Buffalo Bills, Cincinnati Bengals, and New York Giants. Obviously, the second Giants game was the best Eagles running game all season long. They had multiple guys over 100 rushing yards. Saquon obviously hit a big home run, which was nice to see. Um, Passing defense, they are 12th in football in 12th worst in football, I should say, in passing yards allowed per game. Um, they are 15th, or they're about an average passing defense unit, but teams really just pound the rock against them. So the Eagles, what they want to do is run the ball, and if there was a team that they should be able to push around and run the ball against, here it is. So hopefully they can do that.
I'll say my like low key storyline is going to be Saquon, is limited, and then Tank Bigsby, plays well because the Bears just can't stop the run, and then you're gonna have to listen on WIP until the Charger game. Saquon had so many carries, and like Tank Bigsby's playing well. Maybe Tank
Mhm.
Bigsby should get like half of the Saquon touches, and like we'll have a two-headed monster like in 2003 with Terrell Buckholder and Brian Westbrook. Like just dumb crap,
Yeah, yeah, it'll perk up. But listen, if it
like
results in
John
a good
Ritchie.
rushing
Like
attack and a win, I will be more than happy. So you're taking the Bears. I'm on the Eagles. I could see them winning and not covering. Um, I I don't want to imagine a world where they lose on Friday, and hopefully we don't see that. But we should be in store for some 4 good football games by the time we will be on this show again. So yeah, that
that's our
that
show,
is it.
everybody. Take
Thank
care.
you.
We are part of the Fired Up Sports Network of shows. Please check out other Fired Up Sports Network podcasts like the P-Lot Pod, Water Cooler Talk, Bell Smashers, Philly Sports Love and Pain, Drunk on Broad, Beer Battered Sports, and the Fired Up Sports Show, which are available on all major podcasting hosting sites and social media. Also, check out Mark Ramos' Roundup on firedupsports.com, which breaks down the happenings going on with all your favorite local teams.